Alright, well, I'm Xion from TheTeamMinority. I'm doing the Decklist of Infernities. The main staples of this Infernity deck would have to be Infernity Archfiend. These cards are pretty easy to special summon as long as you make sure you don't have a hand. All you have to do is when you draw it and you have nothing in your hand, you reveal it to your opponent, it special summons itself. And you search for anything in the deck.
That's bullshit! That's like the dumbest effect, I'm sorry.
You special summon anything, and you get anything you need from your deck, any Infernity card. I'll explain more combos with that card later on. And then the next set would have to be Infernity Avenger. A lot of people like to run 3, but it's only necessary to run 2. This is a really great card because not only can it special summon itself as a level 4 from the graveyard if you have nothing in your hand, but it's an Infernity card which is easily summoned, and it makes great combos with the other Infernity cards. Next would have to be probably the other half of the Infernity combo, Infernity Necromancer. If you have nothing in your hand, you can special summon an Infernity from the graveyard once per turn, and it comes out at 2000 defense. And your opponent won't expect that normally, sending a monster face down with 2000 defense. And it's only a 3-star, and it completes the combo that I'll explain in a little bit. Then it comes with the, I don't know how to explain it, but Mirage is probably another one of the best cards in the Infinity deck. You tribute it. It's a 1-star, so you can use 1 for 1. You can use a lot of other support for 0 attack, 0 defense. And you tribute it to bring out 2 Infernities, which will bring out an Archfiend, a Necromancer, and then you use Necromancer's effect since you have nothing in your hand anyway to bring out an Avenger. And then you synchro easily for level 8. And right now in this format there is quite a bit of level 8 monsters. Next would have to be a Plague Spreader Zombie. He's a staple in most synchro decks. Specials himself easily and effectively. Then it's Armageddon Knight, which is like a Foolish Burial but in monster form. You can combine him with Plague Spreader Zombie to bring out Goyo Guardian pretty quickly, or Brionic, or any other level 6 that you might need. Then it's Stygian Sheep Patrol, or Stygian Sheep Patrol. On the field, its effect isn't that great, but when it's in the graveyard, that's when you need it. Well, not most, but some like to run 3. You need 2. But when this card is in the graveyard, you remove it from play to special summon any fiend type that has a 2000 or less attack from your hand. And so you can use that combo with Infernity Archfiend or with Mirage, depending on where you're at in the combo, in the system. Next would be Dark Grepher, which is another great card for any dark decks, and all Infinities are dark. And so you use this to set up to send your Stygians to the graveyard, or to send your Archfiends or your Avengers. It's just, everybody knows Grepher. Next would have to be the traps. Basically, I run a Dark Bribe just for safety. If you have a Solemn Judgment, run a Solemn Judgment. Bottomless. People like to run 2, but I only feel it's necessary to side in if you need it. But 1 is great. Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. This card is really great in the Infinity deck, but it's kind of hard to get a hold of. It lets you discard, which is great in an Infinity deck because the main point is not to have any hand. And it returns 1 card from your opponent's side of the field to the top of their deck, which will put them back a turn, which is really great if you want to stall, or if you want to set up a combo, or an OTK or an FTK. Mirror Force destroys everything on your opponent's side. Compulse, just in case they bring out a synchro or a monster to start a combo. Stop something before it happens. And against Infernities, a lot of people try to remove stuff from play. Mostly they'll try to remove from play a Archfiend or a Stygian. But if you're running a Return from a Different Dimension, you can bring it back for a turn. And this works great if you have your Mirages that are removed from play. and then and a plague spreader.
Isn't it return bad?
It's limited to 1.
Oh.
But and it's great to set up more combos or continue a combo if they stop you or if they ended it before you were able to finish. Another staple in this deck is Infernity Inferno. Discard 2 cards and send up to the number discarded of Infernity cards from your deck to the graveyard. This is a beast to set up for your Infernity combo. You send Avenger, if you have like a Necromancer on the field or a Mirage, you send Avenger and Archfiend, and then you just start the combo from there. Next, would have to be the most expensive card in the whole entire deck, and what makes this deck one of the greatest ones out there. Infernity Barrier, which come out at $30 a piece, which is very expensive and overpriced. But this is an amazing card, considering what it does and what the cost is. Basically, you don't have anything in your hand and you have to have a face-up Infernity. And it negates everything and anything, whether the effect activates in the graveyard or the effect activates in the hand. It'll negate Honest, it'll negate anything that special summons itself. The only thing it won't negate is a continuous effect that's already activated. But other than that, it's all fair game. Next, I think is the spells. Dark Hole, staple. Infernity Launcher. This was one of the main cards in the deck until it got hit on the ban list. It got limited to 1. This card is like a Mirage, except you can activate it whenever because it's a spell. And basically the first effect is useful if you draw it. If you draw into it first turn, you send one Infernity card from your hand to the graveyard. But the second effect is the most important because you use it to special summon 2 Infernities from your graveyard. Then it's a Reinforcement of Armory to get Greffer or Armageddon Knight. Monster Reborn, just for anything. I run 2 MSTs for safety if they have a Bottomless or something dangerous in the backfield. Pot of Avarice. A lot of people don't know, but Pot of Avarice works great in an Infernity deck because you're sending a lot of cards to the graveyard, and you're going to be sending a lot of Synchros to the graveyard as well. Most of them are the 100 eyes, and if you use Pot of Avarice, you can recycle them back into your extra deck, and then you draw 2 cards, which is great. Then it goes to Giant Trunade, which helps you set up the combo, and for an OTK. 1 for 1, which you use to discard a card and special summon a level 1, which is great to use with Mirage because it's a special summon. Foolish Burial, which you use to burial Stygians or Archfiend. And then Nobleman of Extermination. A lot of people don't think this card is that great, but it's underrated. It's very underrated because it's not only is it another MST for face down spell or trap cards, but if they're running Bottomlesses or if they're running a Icarus Attack or
Icarus Attack is a bitch. What else?
And Dark Bribes and traps in general that people like to run 3.
Warnings. Fucking
Solemn warnings.
Dude.
Definitely solemn warnings. Use this and it removes all copies from their deck and yours from play, and so they're vulnerable, especially against black ones. And from my extra deck, Magical Android. It's a level 5. Trying to get a Cataster, but
Cataster.
can't get a hold of one right now. I used to run Beetles in my deck. When you run Beetles, you synchro for 6, and then you synchro for 8. It used to run consistently, but with the new format, it doesn't work so well. So I used to have Gaia just as synchro fodder. And Flamboyant Iroquois, because he has the piercing. And he's pretty underrated as well, but I like his piercing and his attack gets increased. And I'm trying to get a Goyo as well. Everybody seems to need a Goyo, but nobody seems to have one. Next is Red Dragon Archfiend, who is another staple. Stardust Dragon, who actually works great in this deck. Dark End Dragon.
Get out that Dark End.
Yeah, Dark End Dragon. Who, if they bring out a Red Nova Dragon or a card that can't be sent to the graveyard or destroyed by anything, bring out Dark End Dragon and just send it to the graveyard. by a pretty small cost. But one of the main synchros in this deck is the 100 Eyes Dragon, because it uses the effect of a dark monster in your graveyard. So say you synchro for 8, and you have a Mirage in your hand, and you activate it, and you synchro again for 8. You start the combo, and you have 100 Eyes. Well, now you have 3 Mirages in your graveyard. You remove a Mirage from play, he becomes a Mirage. You tribute him, special summon the 3 you used to summon him anyway, and you get a barrier to your hand, and you set it. And you keep doing that combo with all 300 Eyes until you want to leave 100 Eyes on the field, or you want to synchro for another 8 instead. So you have all 3 Mirages recycled.
What do you always do? You do the Stardust,
and then you get and then you basically have all 3 barriers in your backfield.
And then you do
in case they have something in theirs.
Stardust.
And then you just wait.
Stardust, Doom Dragon, and what? You always have out.
Yeah.
It freaking sucks.
And then next on the list would be the greatest synchro monster of all time, Infernity Doom Dragon. If you have nothing in your hand, you can activate its effect and destroy a monster on your opponent's side of the field, and they take half of their damage direct. And so he's great against anything that's stronger than him, and he comes out at 3,000. So that's already a beat stick that can destroy anything bigger. And not only that, he's an Infernity. So if you use him with any of the Infernity support barriers, he's the name you use for barriers. But also you can use Mirage if they destroy him to bring him back out, and that's pretty unexpected. Then Mistworm. Mistworm was a big one. A lot of people didn't know, but you can still use Mistworm in this format, even though Launcher was hit. You use either 2 Archfiends and an Avenger to bring out Mistworm, or you use Archfiend, Necromancer, and Plague Spreader to bring out Mistworm setup for the big combos. It's a 25 direct hit, because you return 3 cards from your opponent's side of the field back to their hand. And Red Nova Dragon, I don't really run anymore, because I don't run Beetles, but I used to synchro for Archfiend, and then bring out 2 Beetles and synchro for Red Nova Dragon. But it sucks because you're left pretty open with nothing in your hand and nothing on your field except for Nova Dragon. And if they bring it back to the hand, or if they send it to the graveyard, you're screwed. But yeah, my favorite to bring out on the field when I can is have 100 Eyes, a Doom Dragon, and a Stardust Dragon, and then 3 barriers in the backfield, so they can't do anything to you. And then basically you set up for an OTK or an FTK.